Thank you for joining us here again on windsurftutor.com. In today's video, we are going to be covering actually two subjects in one, and those subjects are two things that almost every single business today uses. So we have not discussed so far how to connect our Windows network out to the internet. Many times, you will have an internal network and you'll have a single IP address from an internet service provider, and you will want to provide all of the systems on your network access to the internet through that one IP address. And at the same time, many times businesses want workers to be able to dial into the company network and have the ability to work remotely. So those two things are actually covered by what's called routing and remote access services. It's actually not called that anymore in the roles, but you'll see what the new name is. There's a couple of things that we're going to do, and I want to show you how to prep for setting this up. So let's say in our example, we want our accounting group, which may not be in all reality the best idea, to be able to work from home. So we've got this user here, Al Rome, and he is a member of the G accounting users. So that's the group he's in. And if you want a user to be able to dial in with, under basic settings like we're going to be displaying here, you see this dial in tab where you're going to go here and select allow access. Now just to note, if you try to actually VPN in as the enterprise administrator, you might actually have some problems. So you want to have a specific group for this. In all honesty, I would recommend creating a VPN group. Remember, we talked about global groups and local groups, and then you have your one VPN domain local group, and then put your accounting users in that local group. It's a little bit more advanced, but it's just a thought if you want to do some reading on it. So in addition to that, you will need a share. Here we have our accounting share, and then we have our accounting file.txt. We have a very advanced method of accounting in this company. And on this file, on that share that we had there, we have this shared for that accounting group, so G accounting users. And under security, we have that G accounting users group has access to that directory on the disk. So now to show you that we actually do not have any connection to the internet right now, I'm going to ping google.com, and you'll just have to take my word for it that Google has not been hacked and they're not down. But as you can see, we don't get any results from google.com, so I'm not going to do anything else on this server. Where we are going to perform our work is actually on this gateway system right here. And so I have it descriptively named W2K8R2GW01. You can name it whatever you like. So you can see we're just going to select the traditional add roles. You've seen this several times, and we're going to try to go through this quickly. It is no longer called routing and remote access, as I had mentioned previously. Here you can see it is called network policy and access services. We're going to select that, and next. Now we're going to select routing and remote access services. There are some pretty cool options. If you want to install a network policy server, this would actually be a Radius system, and what Radius allows you to do would to be control many routing and remote access servers from one central location. So kind of how we can use group policy to manage many things in our domain, you can use Radius to manage many remote access servers. But for this simple tutorial, we're not going to select that. The Health Registration Authority and Host Credentials Authorization. These are some advanced features that you can use. The Health Registration Authority, you can actually look and say, okay, if this laptop is trying to VPN into my network, does it have a firewall? Does it have an antivirus? Is this laptop up to date on its Microsoft patches? And if your hosts or your guests meet certain conditions, you can allow them onto your network. If they don't, you can actually, for example, push down Windows updates to those patches. That will be a little long for this video. Maybe we'll do a second part of this. But for right now, we're just going to select the routing and remote access services. So that's it. Those are your options. Not incredibly complicated. what you're going to notice when this server and the role is installed, I'm going to have a default policy on this system because I actually use this box to bridge my internal virtual network out to the internet so I can pull down my WSUS updates. So it's going to have a remaining policy that we'll just delete, and I'll walk you through the steps of configuring this server. So you can see it installed. It's pretty quick. And what we're going to do is we're just going to close out of here, and we're going to go to Administrative Tools and select Routing and Remote Access. I'm going to let this fire up. And again, because I actually do use this server, it's actually pulling my old policy. So I'm just going to right click and disable it, and this is going to get rid of everything we have on the system here. For some reason, if you mess up and you're not really sure why your configuration isn't working, you can do this with your system just as well and start all over from scratch. So let's say you have a VPN server and a network address translation server, and you decide, well, I don't need VPN, and you want to remove it for security's sake. You can do the same thing, and then you would right click here and configure and enable routing and remote access. So that's the option we're going to select. And it's just going to take us through a very simple wizard. In our case, we are going to select remote access and VPN. So you have remote access here, NAT here. If you wanted to connect two branch offices over the internet, so let's say you had two offices across the country, one in New York and one in California, and you wanted to connect them because they each had a connection to the internet via the PPTP protocol, this would be the option you would select here. So we're going to select next because we're going to allow remote users to dial into us. Now I know that our external network is 192.168.1.200. So we're going to select that. And remember that DHCP server we set up? We're actually going to use that DHCP server here. And we are not going to use a radius server. So no, use routing and remote access to authenticate connection requests. And that's it. Those are your choices, and this is just going to take just a moment. And we're going to select OK to this, and it's going to start up the service. Okay, give it just 1 second here. Okay, and so this is what it would look like. So now what we have is we are just doing IPv4 forwarding. So you have a couple different things here. You can see we don't have any remote access clients right now. 0 is the number there. If you wanted to define some policies, you could set that up. So NAT, you can see here, we don't have a whole lot of traffic going through just yet, but I'm going to bring up that app server, and let's try pinging Google again. Drum roll. Oh, we got the IP address from DNS. And there we go. So we are getting a response from Google. I'm actually having problems with my internet. That's why it's timing out. But as you can see, when Comcast doesn't suck, there we go, 100%. So get out of there. So now what we want to do is we want to just allow maybe a simple service onto our network from the internet. So if you wanted to do that, let's say you had a web server that you wanted to, let the rest of the world see. It's as simple as this. You could simply go down to NAT here, select your external interface, hit Properties, and then you have this Services and Ports tab. Now as you can see, we've already opened some ports for our VPN system. Okay, if you wanted to maybe open up your mail ports, SMTP, things like that. This you generally wouldn't, but here I actually have an IIS web server that I would like people to access. So I would just select that HTTP, and I'm going to do 10.10. And whatever the name or the IP address is of your HTTP server, and in my case it's 102, so select there, and apply. And it's that easy. So it's very, very easy to allow services in and out of your network. Now, I will say this. Windows 2008, it does have a firewall and some security features built in. It is a basic, it does a pretty decent job. It will block different services. This is not an industrial strength firewall. So I am not advocating that you set this up right behind your router and this is what you use to protect your network. You would really want to use something like Microsoft Forefront Server, a Cisco Pix, a Checkpoint firewall, something like that, something that's going to be a hardened system to guard your network. But this will do a basic job of, if you have, like, let's say a Cisco Pix firewall, and then you have this sitting behind it even to guard your demilitarized zone for your web services, this is an option that you can use. So what I want to show you now is that this VPN actually works. So let's go back to that application server that we have. And if you remember, we have this accounting share with this super secret accounting file. And I'm going to actually VPN to my virtual machine network using my workstation that I'm using videos on. And just to show you that I'm not connected to that 10 dot network, I'm going to do an IP config, and as you can see, my IP address is 192.168.1.7, and I'll even do it all just to really prove it to you. So I don't have any 10 dot network assigned to this workstation right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to open network and center sharing. So just this little icon down here, going to open this up, and you can see set up a new connection or network. So we're going to select that. We're going to connect to a workplace for VPN. We're going to use my internet connection for VPN. And I know that the forward-facing internet address for this is 192.168.1.200, and it's WinServe That's what I'll call that connection. And the username is, remember, we had that lrome@winservetoots.wst, and he's got a password that we're going to use, and we're just going to use remember, and we're going to connect. And as you can see, it's going through this handshaking process, and ta-da, we are connected. So we're going to close that out here. And now if we go back to our gateway server and we open up this routing and remote access, you can actually see all of the clients that are VPN'd into your network. So if you're looking at this console and nobody's supposed to be VPN'd in, and you see somebody, this will tell you right here. So this tells us arome@winservetoots.wst is VPN'd in. So now that we're VPN'd in, what can we do? Can we actually work on our network? Well, yes, we can. So what we're going to do is I'm going to do whack whack, back whack there, and I'm going to do W2K8R1APP01. That's the name of the server. And I want to access this accounting share because I'm in the accounting group. So and look, this accounting file.txt. So as you can see, I'm going to open this here, and it's blank, and I go plus $1 for WinServeToots. Okay, and I'm just going to save that, and let's see if that shows up here on our workstation. Yes, it does. So look, now we've just proven that we are actually on our internal network, and let's just do our IP config all again. So now, as you can see, if you look right here, we actually do have a 10 dot network, whereas before we did not. So I hope this video is really helpful for you. I know a lot of small businesses, they pressure their administrators for advanced functionality. And one of the reasons why, even though I'm a fan of open source, why I do recommend a Windows infrastructure for business is because it makes things like VPN and routing and remote access so easy and so manageable. So thank you again for joining us. I hope you've gotten a lot out of the video. Again, if you have any suggestions for videos, please feel free to contact us on our website. We'd love to hear from you. And thanks again for visiting winservetoots.com.